Welcome, 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 welcome,
Welcome, welcome, welcome, welcome, welcome,
welcome to the But Constantine, we have an emergency podcast episode today.
Emergency.
It's an emergency. What is it?
Hi,
Orson Welles.
Rums.
I don't remember Orson Welles's. I don't think his voice was this, but in my mind, it's stay close to your TVs because aliens have landed on the planet. That's not even remotely close, but it was kind of in the back of the throat. Like, yes, I'm Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Anyways, so with that, Constantine, we haven't done an update in a hot minute. So first and foremost, want to thank all of the people who have tuned in. Constantine, we have over 3,300 people that have tuned in or listened. So there might be some repeat listeners. We have 266 subscribers. So for everybody that has subscribed, thank you so much. Share with a friend who might be curious about the category and everything like that. Constantine, where can people tune in?
People can find us anywhere you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Amazon Music.
And I think YouTube now, which I thought I put our
we
stuff on
YouTube.
I think so, but then I looked on our YouTube channel and it's not there. So I got to do some digging. The tragedy in all of this is I was in tech before I switched to rum, and I guess you're out of the game for a year. It's been a year now since I've been doing this, and you just forget everything. Anyways, quick update. So Constantine, I was at Tiki Oasis with one of our amazing guests over the past weekend. I was repping Demerara Distillers Limited, specifically their cocktail rum Diamond. So I spoke at a few of the tropical tastings. We tasted the Diamond Dark, amazing in cocktails. And I also hosted the launch party of the El Dorado High Ester Blend at Mothership, which Mothership is an insanely awesome bar in San Diego. It's a spaceship that crashes in the jungle, so to speak. And it was fantastic. So apart from that, I'm actually going to Guyana for real this time. I was supposed to go earlier in the year, but with my passport, again, reminder to everybody, if you're wanting to leave the country and you have less than 6 months on your passport, they will not let you leave.
Now.
And you don't want to go to the people who arranged travel for you the day of going, I can't go because my passport, they won't let me. So you want to make sure, rookie mistake. And then last thing too, I haven't actually let our listeners know that if you come in on the right days at the Lucky Tiki in West Hollywood, which apparently is LA's, and I'm doing the air quotes, hottest bar, you'll find me behind the stick. And I usually bring in some amazingly delicious rums. And for our guests, I actually have brought in both barrel picks of the Rum Curious Club to taste to the guests and the bartenders behind the stick. And with that, Constantine, give us a couple quick updates, and then let's dive into the meat and the potatoes of this emergency podcast.
Yeah, no, real quick, I'm on Mothership. So if you are not following Brian on Instagram, the Rum Champion, look at the pictures of Mothership. I sent him a message. I saw the picture. That looks like a phenomenal place. I can't wait to visit when we go there later this year. But check that out. So what's going on here in Fiji? We are deep in cane cutting season, which means a lot of just idyllic scenes of the cutters in the field. And for us, a house full of smoke because they burn the cane fields before they cut them. We're surrounded by cane fields here. You can't see it, but so we get a house full of smoke every other day as they burn the cane fields before they cut. So kind of wish we would hurry up and get through the season, but it also means a lot of good rum coming out. We're doing some ferments and just doing some trial runs here for the distillery. Been doing some molasses and some cane juice runs through the still. Other updates, we've got the Fiji Rum and Tiki Festival coming up next year in October. Don't have solid dates yet. Was hoping to get that by the time we recorded this. But this is an emergency podcast, so I couldn't quite fit it in before we got to the emergency podcast. So stay tuned for more information on Fiji Rum and Tiki Festival. Who do we have today on the show, Brian? This, as an emergency, I'm going to let you run through this because you have a unique position in this group here.
I do. And I don't know, every time we do this, I can't believe I've fought from doing any quotes from Good Morning Vietnam. So everybody, this is an emergency podcast where we have a repeat guest of Andrew Cabot from Privateer. Our listeners will recognize him from the first in our ongoing series of Rum from Unlikely Places. And Andrew, it's great to have you back. We have yet, though, to introduce our three new listeners, good Lord, our new guests. So we have Shannon Mustipher. You know her, you love her. She is tiki and rum royalty. I don't know. I had to turn British. It seemed like a good time. And then we have the founders of Raising Glasses, an amazing American independent bottler out of Boston, John and Lori. And we are so excited to have you guys here. So first and foremost, everyone say hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello,
Good to have
everybody.
you guys here.
So excited. And before we get into who y'all are and why we're here, first of all, we've got to do a show and tell. So is anybody drinking? Yes, it's 1:30 here in LA, but you know what? To kick us off, I actually did a blend because for those who have been paying attention, I did the first ever barrel pick of the Rum Curious Club was with Privateer, and the second pick was with Raising Glasses. So I, in the spirit of this episode, have blended both barrels together to create just a very own little Rum Champion, Rum Curious Club barrel pick blend, which is very wordy. So I'll have to work on that throughout the episode.
Like your branding needs a little help there, dude.
I know.
Liter size label.
I know. Oh my goodness.
What is with that glass? It looks like it's got a stem that's 20 inches long.
Oh, I know. So these were actually a gift where somebody gave these and they're like, oh, it's great for tequila. And I'm like, do you know who you're talking to? Do you see any tequila behind me, madam?
The tequila champion.
But yeah, the tequila champ. But no, these are like tulip glasses that are allegedly good for tequila. They are a bit unique. So thanks for making me feel self-conscious, John. I'll have to hide it.
It seems like you're compensating for something with the length of that stem, but whatever.
Well, definitely not the French pole vaulter, though. I'm sure we've all seen the video by now, right? Hey. But John, Lori, are you guys tasting something? Are you sampling something right now?
We too are drinking on theme.
We are. I'm drinking a Privateer Queen's Share that we got, I don't know, 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, it's one of the old distiller drawers, Queen Shares. And I am doing the our ethereal Madeira rum from Reizinho, which came in, and yeah, obviously we'll be.
We'll explain why that's relevant later.
Exactly.
Yes, it's coming. Andrew, are you drinking anything? You got your tequila
I feel
shot
sorry
ready?
for Constantine, so I picked up a coffee. So I know he's up early this morning taking this call. So I didn't want him to feel left down.
Thank you. Thank you for the solidarity. Yeah, I've got coffee as well, but in my mug from Boston in honor of our guest today. So yeah, just a nice South Pacific local coffee blend.
All right, Shannon, and you're going to be the tiebreaker then. Are we going to be gridlocked, or do the alcoholics have it? Yay, a bottled in bond.
I'm a little biased because this is an element in the blend that we're going to be talking about that I believe, based on John and Lori's suggestion, the thing that really unlocked what we were trying to accomplish with Full Circle. We were kind of at a bit of an impasse, and you all came up with this suggestion that we incorporate this liquid. Meanwhile, I think kind of coincidentally, I've been working with Privateer to educate the trade regarding what this liquid represents. So I'm going to tell us a little bit of the newly released Privateer Bottled in Bond.
Ooh,
it's good. I was going to do that, but I knew you would do it, so I picked a different Privateer.
I mean, so I've gone through 3 bottles of that. One, Andrew sent me without a label in my brand work with them. Then a second one that Privateer had sent me for liquor store tastings at Chips Liquor, which Chips Liquor, you can absolutely pick up a bottle of Bottled in Bond today. And then the third one I actually bought from Chips Liquor because it was the last one on the shelf until he was going to reorder. And I went, I'm taking this. Like fought off 4 people, which, by the way, we're going to have a good old in-depth on the whole Bottled in Bond act. But today is not that day. Constantine, we have this emergency episode, but tell us a little bit more about why.
Yeah, I mean, this emergency came up. Brian, I got your message and I was like, man, something big is going on. So for us to have an emergency episode, usually we're sort of methodical. We plan out months in advance, but for this to come up, had to be something, and you've heard the words Full Circle already a bunch of times. So this is pretty interesting for 2 reasons. So we got Full Circle, a blend that's coming out that John and Lori and Raising Glasses is putting out. But we, Brian, have also come full circle 1 year. We've been doing this podcast. Can you believe it's been a year already?
No, I can't. Because I mean, for everybody on this call, I'm sure we've told you multiple times, but Constantine and I became the best of buddies in Singapore, going to all the Lions, Limehouse, Sugarhold, Kempinski, the 15 Stanford, Origin Bar, all these amazing rum bars. And we were sipping on different rums. And anyways, Constantine and I, after a healthy amount of drinking, I'd say, decided to try Black Tot last consignment. And as I was trying to record something, Constantine kept making weird noises and throwing me off of my game, so to speak. And so after that, we said, hey, man, we got like some good dynamic. Let's do a podcast. And so 12 months later, we have, 266 subscribers, and it's just been a ball. So we've learned a lot. We've talked to a lot of people, and it's been great, Constantine, hearing your journey of opening your own rum distillery in Fiji. So John, Laurie, I'm just saying, if you need rum from Fiji, you don't have to deal with another company's first right of refusal. You can just go straight to the source with Constantine.
That Fiji Tiki and Rum Festival sounds great. So you may see us there.
Oh yeah, you better.
We'll sample it in person.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And so I mean, just to set the stage, because we've talked about full circle. So for this emergency podcast where we've all quick to the Batcave, all of this, it's amazing because even these relationships on this call, Constantine, have all come full circle. So Privateer was the first brand that really took a chance on me being a brand ambassador, if you will. And in meeting Shannon at Tiki Oasis, and then John and Laurie meeting you guys in Boston, because of the trip of Privateers, it's amazing that we're sitting here where we are. So what is full circle? Well, at a very high level, Shannon and I and John and Laurie and Raising Glasses, we have been collaborating for some time on creating a new and unique type of rum blend. And we are, after a lot of trials, a lot of blending, and very healthy, very, very, very healthy amount of drinking, have come up with something that we're really excited to share. And so it's just been a crazy experience, Constantine. So that's what we're going to chat about.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing this, it's interesting because you are sort of almost guest/host today, Brian, given your involvement in this. It's going to be interesting to hear, the depth of involvement in the
ghost, Constantine.
Yes, a ghost.
Boo.
But looking at this from the outside and I've seen the graphics up on Facebook and some of the posts, and this full circle rum. The idea of it was kind of fascinating to me. That goes all the way around the world. You've got 5 continents, 8 countries, and then, if I'm correct, the first time ever, Privateer has been in a blend by an independent bottler. And we'll hear a little bit about that story. But John and Laurie, we'll start with you guys. Just talk us through, how you got to this point, the origin of this, and maybe a little bit start with just Raising Glasses. What is Raising Glasses, and why should people be paying attention?
Because it's the best rum in the world.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because
End of show.
we have the freedom to select the best rum in the world. I mean, basically, 2020 we started as an independent bottler of whiskeys and rums. We do a little bit of whiskey, but our real passion and our real motivations are all in the rum space, because we think it's the most interesting space in all of spirits. And so we actually kind of came to this in the opposite direction. We thought of making the ultimate high-proof white daiquiri blend. We spent several months and a lot of drinking and a lot of
samples,
and came to the conclusion that this is a very stupid idea and we should never ever make a blend because there's no way we can get it down to the price point and have the promotional muscle to actually pull this off. We have done 2 blends of our own stuff, very limited edition single cask blends, which we also decided was a very stupid thing to do because
didn't make any money.
We're putting incredibly expensive rums into these, very reasonably priced blends. And it made sense in the beginning when we were just starting out and we just needed more products and more SKUs for tasting, but it didn't make any sense moving forward because, in general, it's harder to sell a blend than it is, a very sexy single cask release.
For small people like us, we don't
Yeah.
have, we don't have worldwide distribution and things like people like Andrew has,
So yeah, we were all dead set on never making another blend until you folks came by.
Oof. And yeah, so it's amazing. So and to all of our listeners, if you're unaware, Raising Glasses has brought to market and will continue to bring to market just amazing rums. I mean, their Pele's Fury is the first grand arome that I didn't want to absolutely spit out and break the bottle because I was so offended. It's an amazing, amazing bottle. I did a barrel pick with them. And so before we kind of dive in though, Shannon, I would assume that everybody listening knows who you are, but just give us the cliff notes a little bit on who you are and then how you met John and Lori. I'll jump in, talk about how I met John and Lori, and then we'll all talk about the genesis of this amazing project.
Yeah, so for those of you who are not familiar with me, I'm a Brooklyn-based spirits educator focusing mainly on rum. I got started in the category in 2015 when I opened a rum-focused bar called Gladys Caribbean, which unfortunately shuttered during the pandemic. But the experience of running that program was one that kind of got me started in this journey and really passionate about making sure that I was able to offer tasting experiences to consumer and trade regarding the category that I thought was majorly slept on, especially when you consider the role that rum plays in mixology in general and more specifically in tiki, which is what a lot of people know me for as well by virtue of a book that I published, Tiki Modern Tropical Cocktails with Rizzoli. So at the moment, I'm not running that bar program, but instead I work with various brands to offer tasting and educational experiences, trainings for trade, and offer advice as well on product creation and how to position liquids in the market.
Love it. And if you are unaware, one, pick up Shannon's book. Two, if she is speaking in your area, it is something that you will not want to miss. Especially, I know she's doing a lot of work with Privateer, who I am a huge fan of. And speaking of Privateer, Andrew, just real quick, reintroduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us one or a couple things what's going on with Privateer, and then we'll dive into this amazingness of Full Circle.
The Full Circle is really the story today. I think, we're obviously delighted to be a part of this. And I'm listening about everybody's sort of OG story as to this blend. But I think what drew us at a very high level was the people. And, this is kind of a jam session. There were some really good people and some really good perspective, and everybody's really fun to work with. And most importantly, everybody cares. There's no exclusivity. There's no velvet rope. There's no nonsense. There's no excessive preconceived notion. There's curiosity. There's passion. There's love for great juice. And creating a blend is, that's the hard end of this process, right? So I admire the courage, John and Lori getting back into it again, and what you guys have done is phenomenal. I mean, we're constantly marveling, but how many places you go to in the country in a short period of time and turn people on and sort of proselytize the good word. And Shannon, of course, we work together, and a great mind and a great thinker and somebody who helps us decode the next challenges as a small company. We wouldn't be able to be successful without you. So for me, this is awesome. Just really happy to be riding shotgun.
Love it.
No, it's such a great story there, especially about the people. That's something I found. And I think you too, Brian. We've talked about this is in the rum world. Is of course we got interested in the tiki stuff or just different rums, whatever. But it was really the people that kind of made it a world we really have dove into. So I think that's great. And this bottling really kind of represents that. Hearing this story.
Yeah, and so without further ado, we are finally getting into the meat and the potatoes of this. So. Full Circle, I'll give the brief overview and then we can all give our perspectives on the origin and how this all came to be. But, when Shannon and I first approached John and Lori about this blend, you could see some of the hesitation. And it's so funny, that meme of Michael Scott going, "I'm ready to be hurt again." It's just like right at the forefront, But the idea that I think all of us, and what I really appreciate about you, John and Lauren, Raising Glasses is we've all seen, another single cask from another independent bottler from Barbados, oh, another one from Guyana, which that's not going to be a thing much longer. Which that's all I'll say on that matter. Or all the classic tried and true hits. And so the pursuit of what Raising Glasses has been doing with getting things from Madeira or the single cask from Trinidad, which is not that easy to find single casks of Trinidad these days, and kind of everything else in between, Australia, for example. So I'll just kick it off of when the origin of I met Shannon Tiki Oasis last year, and I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and nowhere near where I am today as far as what I'm doing, how I'm doing, and the momentum that I have, in large part thanks to Privateer. After that, met with Andrew, flew out to Boston, and Shannon and I had always stayed in touch. Shannon has been an amazing mentor to me as far as how to conserve energy, how to conduct myself, and how to always be improving my teaching seminars, if you will. So I had actually never heard of you guys, John and Lori, until I was with Jay Cocarulo, who was also out for Privateer. But we met you guys at Sunken Harbor Club. And there was, again, just the touching on the people. You guys are such good people, and the passion and the care of really propelling the rum category was there. And so nothing really came of that, right? We said, hey, thanks, hello, thanks for giving me these bottles. I can't wait to try them. Tried the juice, was really, really blown away. And I think at that point, Shannon also came to Boston, where we got her to come visit Privateer. So that's how kind of crazy this story is. But you, Shannon,
you wrote me in last minute. I was on my way to activate at Wusong Road.
I see. It's all my fault. Yeah, we got Shannon to come from Boston to Ipswich and back. But I understand, Shannon, at that time you had already met John and Lori previously, right?
A few times, I think.
We've met prior at Hidden Harbor, as I mentioned. And as chance would have it, John and Lori, you were guests at that activation I was preparing to do at Wusong Road that same weekend around Brian's visit to Privateer.
Yeah. We saw you standing at the bar, so John immediately stalked you on the internet to see if you were the Shannon.
Yeah, you had to bring this story.
We already had your book. We were already fans of your work, but yeah, John does it. And he walks over and says, "Are you Shannon Mustipher?" And then he opened his phone to show you, I think, pictures of our bottles, and you saw your picture on the front page when he opened his phone.
There was a lot of pictures of Shannon. I'm like, well, I had to be sure, right? Like, you don't want to go up to somebody and they're like, no.
And he came back and said, she probably thinks I'm stalking her. And I'm like,
that's exactly what Shannon said. Like, oh, are you stalking me? And I was like,
yeah, coincidentally, yes. I was holding zip ties.
Absolutely, I was stalking you.
I know, right? Oh my goodness.
So yeah, that was not an auspicious beginning, but Shannon forgave me for being a stalker. So
yeah, we've met up with her in several cities around the country. When we just happened to be at the same place at the same time, right?
Yeah, and then we met at Sunken Harbor. Just for fact checking, Brian, we met Brian at Shore Leave in Boston, not at Sunken Harbor. We met
Shore Leave.
Shannon at Sunken Harbor a few weeks later, I believe, after a meeting at Hidden Harbor in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Boston is becoming a less unlikely place to find rum, hey, Brian?
I tell you what, I don't know. I turned Southern, but I mean, I could have done like Southie, but although I wouldn't do that justice and then have people eye rolling. So, so it is amazing just how interconnected this is. And for me around that time, I had approached a few different brands about doing a Rum Curious Club blend to follow in suit, being inspired by Jay at the Florida Rum Society. And by this point, we've done a barrel pick of Privateer. And at the same time, I called Shannon to actually pick her brain because she had done the Myrtle Bank Tiki blend. And so it was, hey, what's that process look like? And then we got to talking about, Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we had both been thinking on doing and finding unique blends and kind of seeing the classic hits of, oh, this is another Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana blend, or, oh, this is a Barbados, Mauritius, or, oh, it's a Jamaica and whatever. And so kind of lamenting seeing a lack of rums being represented from around the world, which is something that everybody on this call is very passionate about. We got to talking of what an ideal blend would/could be, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I mean, so that's absolutely accurate. And I also want to add that, there was a certain redundancy regarding this protocol around global blends, which seems to kind of always incorporate the same regions over and over again. And what I really wanted to do here was very lofty and ambitious. A, from a historical perspective, and B, also from the perspective of bringing to light John and Lori's expertise over the years in sourcing rums from around the globe. Hence this idea of full circle. So the idea that I had in mind was rums from every region around the world that played an important role in the development and the evolution of rum as a global category, starting in Asia, touching on Africa. Madeira was a brilliant touch to incorporate into it. And of course, we had to have some elements from the Caribbean. And, fortunately, we're able to incorporate an American rum from Massachusetts as well to kind of bring it all together. But I just thought we saw so many bottlings that kind of stuck to this formula. And I want to kind of expand out from there and be able to talk about rum as a global category, as well as talk about what Full Circle has been working on the whole time. That was where my head was at.
Yeah. And we, after that,
I wanted to work with Shannon. I just respect her so much and what she does in the industry. And I met her, and I'm all for also promoting women in rum. And if she wanted to work with us, I wanted to work with her. I think I told her that the first time I met her, or maybe the second time I met her somewhere. But I was like, I'd love to work with you. And so this came up, and so we jumped at the chance. Obviously, you're pretty famous in your own right, and you're in California, and you know a lot of people. And we're like, okay, if we're ever gonna do it, let's do it with people who are also really connected to the rum industry that are fun to work with. And then when we got Andrew to come on, that was like the clincher right there. It was like,
this is actually gonna work.
It's gonna work. Well, and even before we got to that, so if anybody's interested in a rum blend, unless you have infinite number of barrels in your rick house or at your fingertips, not through E&A shear or skier. Isn't it A&A skier, or like, what's the Dutch way to say it? Because I want to say it because it's much more.
I don't know.
Yeah, Joris corrects me.
Several rounds of samples. The first ones were like, okay, this is interesting. And then they just got progressively more esoteric. So then we had to jump on a call. But anyway, we ended up going through, I think, around 11 or 12 different just blends from them. And then John and Lori worked their magic. Oops, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and then once we found what we thought was a good cornerstone base, then we were able to sprinkle a little sugar on that. And that sprinkling of sugar is 100% John and Lori being the blending tinkerers. Like, I can't speak for Shannon. I know you've done this before, but sending me like the little beakers, I felt like I was in science class. I was half expecting a white jacket and the goggles so I could just put my beaker and just put all this stuff together. But really what set it apart, the Madeira, which we talked to, or what we had alluded to earlier, that gave a nice roundness. And then the privateer just brought it home. And so that was really I like to say that with everything we put together, we were about 98%, 95%, somewhere in there. And then once we had that bottled and bond, which Andrew was so gracious to allow us to use in this blend, the first time he's ever done that, that really brought it home. And now I can say the four of us all unequivocally are very proud of what we've come up with. After countless emails and God, it's good, but it's not great. Oh, this was awful. This one missed the mark, and everything else in between. And just, I mean, I know we've alluded to it over and over again, Andrew, but just with Privateer, first and foremost, thanks for allowing this. And I know that you've been approached multiple times before by different people to do blends or other things. And just from the bottom of our hearts, thank you.
I think John said, do you want to? Or John and Lori said, do you want to? And I said, yes. I think it was the whole conversation. not to deflate the moment. Again, back to what I said earlier. It was fun.
Yeah. I was expecting like a whole Wizard of Oz thing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I know, right?
No, but here's what's funny is you guys have all tasted it. I'm doing that blind man with the elephant here. I got one piece, and that's all I have to work with to make get a feel.
I thought we didn't give you a sample of that already.
Not yet, but it's definitely making it fun. Like
I'll get you a sample this week.
Every day now.
Yeah, well, I think it was actually one of Shannon's comments, because once we had the base blend there, which is, the four biggies. So it's Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana. I just need more. He says like I need more cream or I need more dairy, or it was almost more of a mouthfeel note than a tasting note. And to me, that was just such a different way of thinking what we were trying to get to. Because most people would be like, oh yeah, we need a little more citrus, we need all this. But I think something about Shannon's comment just said like there needs to be a feeling. There's like something missing on just the back half of this blend. And the second I thought about that, like, what we need? We need some we need some privateer in here, because it's just that new American oak just gives it that, kind of that back end to it. Puts a little ass into the blend. And I think we all just like spontaneously threw it in there at the same time and said like, yep, this is really, really close to what we're going for.
Yeah, we had a tier with mounds.
That was a brilliant call on your part, because, full disclosure, while I wanted this blend to be as inclusive as we could possibly make it, I also didn't want to put liquids in there just for the sake of saying we have rum from here, 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 and there, right? I really wanted every component to make a significant and meaningful impact on the final result. And initially, I didn't consider American rum to be something that would really kind of push us over the finish line. And I have to say, I think it's really remarkable that the component of Privateer BIB, which is not 30 rounds of samples, and it's inclusive of, you, John, and Lori making personal visits to Skier and Maine Rum Company. I went to Skier as well to taste some things in person. And I just want to impress upon everybody that we did take a considerable amount of time to consider each individual element and, not just kind of settle on, okay, we got this region, this region, this region. Okay, great. And tell me what you guys saw. But I thought that we were on the same page regarding making sure that everything that went into it actually belonged there and made a fantastic final result.
Yeah, every time we went through the rounds, we would pick out the things that we did like and we didn't like of each blend that Skier sent us. And we'd be like, okay, this one has too much of this, but so let's have them remove the whatever it was. I forget what all blends were. There were several countries that they put in and we we're like, nope, that's not giving us what we were looking for. And it was very painstaking and lots of conference calls and Zooms and emails back and forth. I mean, it really did take about 8 months to get it to this point. And we're still like a month away from having it ready to sell on the shelves. We still have to do some more work at Privateer in a couple of weeks, hopefully. So, but yeah, it wasn't an easy process. It was lost.
Yeah, I think one of the things
process there. Oh, go ahead, John.
No, go ahead, Constantine.
I was just wondering about, we talked a little bit sort of around the edges about process. Blending is, to me, and I think to a lot of the listeners, still one of those mysterious alchemy things of rum. I mean, I think more people understand fermentation and the distilling process than they do the blending side on the other end. So is it a set process step by step, or is it really just kind of taking these shots in the dark until you get some sort of I don't know, something that you're sort of happy with and you move forward? Just talk about how does it work? Is it the same every time, or is each blend just a unique one-off process?
Well, I think for us, this was a very different process than when we did our blend of our own single casks, because we had, obviously we had all the components and infinite ability to create all these variations. And I like the word that you used, alchemy, because blends are definitely not just the sum of their parts, because you think, oh, okay, I know what this tastes like. I know what this tastes like. I'm going to put them together and it's going to be half and half, but it's not like that at all. So, I think a lot of it is really coming at it with a more holistic approach. And I think the two things that really unlocked it for us is, one is we finally let Joris and Niels at A&A Scared do what they do best, because I can't tell you the number of times he's like, can you just send us the individual components and we'll blend it ourselves? Because we've been doing this for 3 whole years and we know how to do blends.
We
You know?
know.
And meanwhile, they're thinking like, yeah, you dumb Americans. We've been doing this for like 300 years.
300.
Maybe tell us what you're looking for and your price points, and give us the tasting notes and where it's off and where it's on, and kind of let us pull the levers. And that was one thing. And the other thing I think is we finally came to a determination of where this product was going to fall in the market, because in the perfect world, like, well, we'll have something that's a great sipper and is also great in cocktails and costs $20 a bottle. It's like, forget it. You're never, ever going to hit all those marks at the same time. So I think once we realize, like, you know what, there's no way we can make something we're happy with that's going to end up in the well. So, let's kind of aim around the $50-ish price point and see what Skier can come up with. And they're like, we can do a lot at that price point. And like everything just started getting better. And it was really cool, because almost all the samples from that point on just got better and better and better. And then it became more of a struggle of, okay, how much of this serves the taste of the blend versus how much of it serves the marketing story. And it's always very tempting to say, like, oh, let's throw in something from this corner of the world. Let's have a little bit of Australia. Let's have a little bit of Antarctica.
Right.
But I think to all of our credit, we all agreed, like, taste comes first. Like, we're not playing a rum bingo here. We're like, check, done.
Yeah.
And at the very end, like, I think it really came down to the last 2 blends that we liked. One which had a really like spectacular nose, but had a little bit of an off flavor, missing that last bit of the nose. And it really came down to it came down to the Tahiti, put Tahiti in there to serve the story. But in the end, it was like, none of this matters if it doesn't taste good. So we had them take that
There's
out.
still magic behind the curtain at Sheer, though, which is the fascinating part to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Joris
really
is fabulous to work with. We had he was so communicative and so helpful. And once we really told him exactly what we thought, like, really good, Shannon was really good at putting things into words, I'll be honest with you, with what our tasting notes were and communicating more clearly what our vision was for the rum. They did start getting it better and better. And by the last round of them, it was 95% there, but there was just something missing on the mouthfeel, like Shannon said. And so we all agreed we liked it and it was good enough, but we wanted it to be better than good, So.
And Shannon, you came up with that tasting matrix, which I think just visually got us all on the same page and really helped yours and nail this down.
Yeah, and they were so helpful and communicative over there. I mean, and always on it. Like, anytime we'd ask for samples, they would send out samples to all 3 of us. I mean, to Raising Glasses, to Shannon, and to Brian. And they would send a full set out. They never even asked us for shipping costs. They were just really nice and helpful. So it was really great to work with them.
But I think that really goes back to this whole notion of, like, different ways of communicating what we were all collectively looking for, right? There's calls, there's emails, there's visual aids. And I just like the fact that everybody was very persistent in finding the best way to convey what we all wanted to collectively achieve, and, not rush the process or, just kind of jump to conclusions attached to it so that it sounded cool. I think we're all very dedicated to making sure that the liquid was not only reflective of what you have done thus far with Raising Glasses, but also would put something that I believe is a unique entry into the market of blended rums. And John, I just got to circle back a little bit to your comment regarding the tasting matrices that I developed. Like, we looked at what we conceived of as kind of like comparative bottlings in the market that have come out over the last 10, 15 years that approach this topic of global blends and or naval blends, and try to determine how Full Circle would be something different and be relatable to those concepts, but still give the consumer something that they have yet to encounter. I thought that in the work that you do ongoing with consumer and also with certain retailers in regards to barrel picks, because I think your pulse on, like, what people are resonating with and what's missing in market was really helpful to help us kind of get some clarity on how to steer this ship, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we all rode in the same direction, and that's the other kind of flip side of this. That it's more than just blending. I know we've been talking about all the other things. That we're some pretty critical. The target audience was. I know, John, you touched on that. We needed to figure out what the messaging was going to be, what the tasting was going to be, who we were going to try to go after, and even when there was when we were doing all the different tastings, we would always find ways to say, oh, well, I like this one and I like this one, so let's just blend them together and see what happens. So it was really, again, going back to that people aspect, we all were just in lockstep the entire time. So if you're thinking about doing a rum blend, what are the decisions that go into it? And now we've had extensive conversations on cool market strategy. What's our messaging? How do we launch this? What's the wording? Like, how do we get the momentum and the hype? Which this, of course, being part of that strategy. And so it's been an amazing learning. They are rums from 8 countries and 5 continents. So those countries are Barbados, Ghana, Guyana, Jamaica, Madeira, Thailand, Trinidad, and USA. And so if you think about it, that's 8 countries from 5 continents. That's North America, South America, Africa, Europe, and Asia. And we all relentlessly pursued and pushed, this is what this needs to be. It's not good enough. We want this to be great, not good. And we have come up with something that I know for a fact all of us are insanely proud to put our names on. And so, hooray us. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
I'll just say hooray to the rums from around the world, because that's what this is meant to be for me.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep, to the rum.
To the rum.
So we know privateers.
There, now we are
blend.
full circle. Sorry, Constantine.
Yes. To the rum. So privateers in the blend, can we say other distilleries, or we can only say countries on that?
I think we have naming rights on some of them, but I don't know. I don't know how much we're
Not
gonna.
there yet. Yeah.
We're not there yet. We're working on a label
Okay.
right now. I've got to look and see which of the other ones we have naming rights on and which ones we don't.
Yeah, the Madeira is from Reizinho. Obviously, because it's the same as our ethereal bottling. The exact distilleries. We had there are 2 Thai components in there. So there's the Thai component that Skier put in their base blend, and we also added our Menorah Thai. It's actually 2 Thai casks put together.
Okay.
So those those are from the name of the distillery totally escapes me. I'll get back to you.
You want me to go grab a bottle off the shelf?
Dang, why can I remember? It's
Isan
from the
and Chalong Bay are the 2 Thai. Isan.
Yeah, it's not them. It's the distillery that does Fry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But,
that's the one that slips from my mind.
Ours too.
Yeah.
And we have 2 casks of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now, is this a one-off, this full circle, or are you gonna have the ambition to do full circle 2 with different rums from around the world and going on?
Well, the base spirit Skier has told us they have enough to keep this base blend for 8 years.
3 years. Yeah, they guarantee any blend that they make, unless they specify otherwise, or if the client insists on it, they generally will guarantee availability of that for 3 years. And I assume that's based on your initial order in terms of volume. So our thought was to take that blend and then add single cask ingredients to it to switch it up every year. So this will be the 2024 release, and then and we thought oh, this is so innovative, and then we found out that's the black top model too. So we didn't copy them on purpose. We just did it out of
we didn't invent the wheel.
We arrived at the same creative landing spot that they did by accident. So that was a little embarrassing, but it does, it is a fun model to work with, because you start with something that's really good and you're like, oh, how can we spin this up? So I think it's going to be hard to top this one, because it just all seemed to just really lock in place. And I kind of knew that we had hit it when I tasted one of our friends. His name's Bish, and he's like, there's something wrong with this. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this tastes like my glass had scotch in it before you put the blend in. Is it possible you didn't give me a clean glass or something? And I was like, oh, really? And then I tasted like, yeah, you're kind of right. And then I, tasted it straight from the bottle. Like, no, that's actually the good stuff. So, yeah, it'll be fun to see if we can top it next year. But we'll also be releasing this 2024 in 2 editions. We'll have the Full Circle Foolproof edition, which is probably going to hit around 61-62%. And we'll bottle that in our classic Reizinho glasses 375 format. But we also we got some advice when we were debuting the prototype in the New York Rum Fest. We were on a panel with Eric Key from Homescape, and he tasted it and he's like, yeah, you really should bring this down to about 52 or 53. And we're like, no, never. But we'll test it out. And when we obviously we loved it at Foolproof. We tried it at 57, and we really, none of us liked it at 57. I don't know why. But then when we brought it on to 55, we're like, shit, Eric was right again. For some reason, it really works at 55. So
and again, that's the alchemy part of this, right? You would think, that the gradient.
It's not linear. It's not predictable.
2 points off,
it just hit really nicely at 55. So we'll also have Foolproof 110, which will be bottled in 750.
Full Circle, not Foolproof. You're not Willer.
Oh, right. Yeah. Full Circle, Full Circle 110. So we'll have Full Circle Foolproof, and we'll have Full Circle 110 as well. And Full Circle 110 will be in a more standard 750 milliliter bottling.
And I like to add that one of the reasons why we think it's important to kind of leave the door open to do various releases following this initial foray into this concept is to recognize that the process that we utilized in regards to sampling all the different liquids and considering various iterations of this bottling indicate that there's a lot of potential to continue to elaborate into this theme, right? And as time goes by, there's a likelihood there's going to be other liquids available to us that maybe we didn't have access to in our initial ideation and tasting phase, right? And so this whole idea is to kind of continue this journey where we have new liquids, where we have new expressions of rum, where we have new concepts and ideas around what global rum looks like. So I'm looking forward to, the possibilities going forward. And, as Sean and Lori alluded to, kind of sticking to a core blend that we have biased here, but leaving the door open to improve it over time and to reward the loyalty of the people that do pick up the bottle, that do invest in it, and, continue to kind of take them along with us as we continue to investigate what's possible in a realm of global blends.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I think that you mentioned that it's the same model as Black Tot that you discovered later, but it seems also like that there's just a bit different, whether it's in the brand story or the marketing, that it does differentiate it, I think, a little bit from that. I know Black Tot has the historical links with the Navy rum and all of the flagons and all of that kind of thing. And this is something new. I mean, this is that you guys are creating that kind of fits with more where rum is now, and people are coming in and exploring. And Shannon mentions this all the time. Rum is the global spirit, but I think a lot of consumers don't quite, we hear that, but it still gets back to the Caribbean. Everything gets back to the same rums that are in there. So this is kind of really opening people's eyes up, I think, in a different way than what Black Tot's doing. That's a great, I love Black Tot, of course. But I love the educational side of this and really showing, no, it really is global. Thailand, like we couldn't even think of the third distillery. I know only a couple, but people don't know that they're making great rum in Thailand. So, in Ghana as well.
And to piggyback on that, Constantine, I mean, we've had people on from Cambodia and Vietnam, and we've had Scotland, and Andrew has been on. And so our hope with this Full Circle blend, as well, as to get those rum curious, if you will, consumers to say, I haven't tried anything from Privateer. If they haven't, stop what you're doing and go buy a bottle immediately, because your life has been a lie until this point. Or even, just the stuff that's done by yeah, you can quote me, sir. But I mean, just stuff from Australia. I mean, but it really is trying to, as you say, Constantine, get out of the the Caribbean will continue to make amazing rum, cask
Always,
strength
yeah.
stuff coming out of TDL, St. Lucia Distillers, Hampton, Worthy Park, all these places. People know those. But if you say they're making rum in the Philippines at a spot called Luisita, very few people have ever even heard of them because they'll know Tenduai. Or like Renaissance, for example, in Taiwan is making some amazing stuff.
Yeah,
We don't think about it.
Yeah, Renaissance is one of our favorite global distilleries, and Privateer is our favorite American distillery.
Yeah, Renaissance will probably never let us use anybody use their rum in a blend. So Sangsom is the name of the Thailand distillery, by the way. So.
Well done. I have one question.
I can't help but
let's go ahead.
While we're on the global topic, I just want to put this out really quickly. One of the things that I latched on to early when I was setting the rum program at Gladys was recognizing that rum is global. And the way I set up the rum list was meant to kind of appeal to people that were maybe more acquainted with wine and understand that wine comes from all over the world. And I'm just basically saying, hey, it's not just Caribbean. You can connect to all kinds of places around the world that you travel to or would like to travel to. And I will hope to make the rum category more relatable by emphasizing that element of it and not just make it about the Caribbean and the islands and vacation, which is great. But I think that we'll have more of an opportunity to, further expand on that point with this series.
What were you saying, Andrew?
It's something we think about a lot here is rum. A lot of the rum that we're talking about and premium rum and whatever marketing designation you want to give it is targeting a relatively small group of people, right? We call them the rum elites or the followers or the enlightened, or you choose what you want to put to that. And it's interesting when I hear when you had a touch of is there a note of Scotch or is like you're never wanting to mimic another spirit. We all agree on that. That's a fool's game. But I'm very curious about efforts that bring new people to rum. And there's the vehicles like, obviously what Brian Costin do, and obviously Shannon's out there, and you guys are doing it as well, John and Lori, through the products you put out there and the evangelism around them. But, I think our bigger job is to bring people to the category. And we've used the word as more pragmatic consumers. They taste it, they love it, and they don't buy one bottle for the shelf behind them and one bottle to sip and one bottle to trade online. They expect to be able to go back and buy it every month. And that's the way their mind operates. It's something they like, they want to purchase it. And I think what I'm curious how, if you think this blend fits into that vision of kind of what I consider the only way that rum becomes as significant as it could be in this country, and perhaps catching up to many other countries. And I was curious how if you look at it through that lens, how does the blend fit?
Well,
is it an easy pickup and an easy one again, or is it I check the box and I'm done?
Yeah, well, we definitely didn't want to make something that was already out there, and I think I don't know if we consciously did this, but it's definitely not a Navy blend. Because Guyana is not the dominant note in there, and it doesn't have the kind of heavier, darker. We want something that was brighter, had more electricity behind it, maybe more fruit than your typical Navy blend. My dog is agreeing with me, but it was kind of funny because actually our very first potential rum product from Raising Glasses was supposed to be a Navy blend. So before we did anything with single casks or our own single cask blends, we were working with Niels at Skier to try to develop a Navy blend. But what we didn't tell him is what we were trying to approximate was Vellier's Royal Navy blend, which has like 20 some year Coroni in it. I think it's got some and more. It's got some crazy Hamptons in there. And we're like, why can't they replicate this Navy blend?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
So when we came around to this, I was like, yeah, that bottle's really kind of ruined Navy for me, at least. So I'm glad that this all kind of went in a different direction. So yeah, I think we're trying to come up with a product that is a really interesting blend that does have all these global components, but is unlike what you see that's out there and already being done spectacularly well.
And
Yeah,
my question was born out of the inputs. I mean, you guys went to great lengths. As you said, you didn't put the marketing ahead of the product. You really, truly wanted to create something that blended together into something greater than the sum of its parts, as somebody said earlier in this call. And so I think that to me is interesting because you're kind of pioneering new ground for rum. And I believe that if we pioneer new ground for rum, yes, it can become esoteric and more rarefied, or yes, it can become something that more spirits lovers can appreciate and actually want to jump on the rum bandwagon because of.
Well, and the biggest thing that we wanted to emphasize from a tasting experience is that this is something that's going to, as you say, Andrew, attract people to rum or have the people who enjoy rum be able to enjoy this. So there isn't anything overtly funky or intense about this. John, you just touched on that. And that's what we wanted for this one to be something that was kind of a big tent. And really the two different releases, the one at 55, certainly it's a lot less daunting if somebody has only ever had, 40% rums or 45% whiskeys to go to that, then up to 62. I see it in my tastings all the time when I watch somebody drink something at 60% for the first time and they almost look like they got kicked in the face or in the stomach. And so we're very pleased that we came up with something that is delicious, has a lovely tasting experience, and is a unique twist on everything. Who knows? Maybe later on we'll be able to explore all sorts of funkified air. But we are really, really wanting to focus on getting people into the category and getting people focused on raising glasses, because what John and Lori are doing is nothing short of remarkable. And everyone needs to know the name Raising Glasses.
Amen.
Well, Brian, I just want to kind of back up what you're saying there. We want this bottling to kind of represent a new notion of blended rum. For people that are familiar with Navy rum, there may be a bit of point of comparison there. For people that have, tried different attempts at global rums, we want to demonstrate that there is a way forward with it. But ultimately, we do want to bring the focus back to raising glasses and your expertise in sourcing rums from around the globe. So it's meant to be sort of kind of like carving a new path on what rum blending can look like, but also highlight the expertise of the team behind it in regards to sourcing the rums that go into it, and also having that larger conversation around, rum being a global category, which, Andrew, as you pointed out, a lot of people don't seem to be very aware or cognizant or appreciative of. And we think it's really important to highlight that, because I think as time goes on, especially in America, as we have more access to global rums, I think it behooves any brand or project to take that into account and not just keep the consumer locked into a certain kind of groove around like what rum is.
Right. I only drink rum from this country, or I only drink 1600 ester period, no ifs, ands, or buts. There's a wide diversity of this category, and we're all thrilled that John and Lori decided to team up with us to showcase this. So yeah.
I did have a question for Andrew, just regarding bottled and bond specifically. We just gravitated towards immediately because it was kind of the sexy new thing. But I was just interested in what Privateer's goals were with that specific bottle, because I'm sure it wasn't, hey, let's make some rum that these jokers can put into a blend.
No. I mean, so obviously we were delighted to be a part of the blend, and as a company, we knew a while ago, and really about 4 years ago, we had some important changes, but we felt that we never wanted to ship anything below 4 years again. We think something in New England happens with the style of rum we make and the type of barrel we choose and other inputs. That really everything before that is almost it's not our best. And now by shifting the company to a 4-year starting point, it kind of changed part of our thinking. The second thing, obviously my last question leads you in this direction, but we began to realize, and I think a few different people, including Brian, have mentioned this, that a lot of people don't want high proof. A lot of people don't want single cask. So we started to realize that we didn't want to just cater to one market, even though we have a lot of friends and it's an important community to us, right? But we began to realize that people were looking for different things from an American rum. And so we found ourselves, we have a NER at the 90 proof, which is only available in New England. And we wanted a brand that could differentiate, i.e., we don't have the same marketing budget as most big companies. And we wanted to lean into our American heritage, obviously. And Bottled and Bond, we were waiting for not permission from the TTB, i.e., under the current statutes, it is acceptable as a BIB under the category of other spirit. And we did go through the legal process about 2 years ago. It was right about the time that the RCA was getting started, and asked the TTB just to confirm that rum is included in other, which sounds like a silly little detail, right? But at the end of the day, I was really uncomfortable with the idea of having something called bottled and bond without the TTB statute saying that rum can indeed be a bottled and bond, right? So that was part of it. All of that came together, and there's probably 5 other things I'm not thinking of, to make us say, all right, we know we want to elevate as a company. We know that we can make better rum than we've been making. We believe in our American legacy and heritage, and we want to represent it well. I'm very intrigued, as Brian knows, by the 1865 to 1920 New England rums. And it all sort of just made sense. And as out of Massachusetts or out of New England, bottled and bonds are entry level product, right? That's the onboarding for us. And in time, we may add new things, but the nature of small manufacturing and everything else, it's really hard for us to put a $26 product on the shelf, right? It's everything you experience when you're trying to do your blend. Mm-hmm. So there is a pragmatic element that underwrites all this. It doesn't matter if people love it; it's a business. We want to pay our employees a living wage. We want to take care of people that we want to work with. We want to participate in experiments. And you can't do that if you're playing the margin game every second of your life. Chasing the, minuscule or calculated, it'll pay on the come type deals. And so everything that you're hearing from me is a 360 view on what a business does, certainly post-COVID. So long answer, I apologize for that, but that's the speed dating version of everything that went through our heads.
No, it's fantastic. And just to put a cap on it, last night, Andrew, I made a corn and oil with Bottled and Bond, and it's probably the best corn and oil I've ever had.
Don't tell Richard.
That's a big statement.
I heard him mention it on your last podcast.
Hey, I've had 1,326 rums from 78 countries and territories, so I will say it's probably the best corn and oil I've had. With the Liquid Alchemist simple syrup, so I'll put the little thing in there. Liquid Alchemist, by the way, amazing simple syrup company. I got a bottle from Tiki Oasis. Their Falernum is lovely, and there's just something about that Liquid Alchemist Bottled and Bond loveliness that just really helps Bottled and Bond pop.
No, it's great. And we're really happy, and we'd like to see more people playing with New American Oak in a legitimate way. There's some things that we're trying to do that we can do geographically and because of how we make things. But everything about this phone call reminds me that once again that it's not just that there's amazing rum from all the corners of the globe. That's been cool, and the last 10 years has been about bringing those forward. Right? Doesn't matter if it's Velier in the past and. You talked about Eric and others on this call, and I think that's all coming. But the fact that you guys are bringing them together in this way is actually kind of the next wave, next generation of this view. And I only pepper in the thought on, can we bring new people to rum through this vehicle, which honestly, my instinct is they will. John, you mentioned, obviously John and Laura, you guys mentioned bringing the proof down a little bit. That to me is exactly the sort of, softening of the leading edge that helps people come on board. I didn't like it here, but I loved it there, right? And so I think I just love everything about the vision of this blend and the curiosities. And I even heard today, this is a 1.0, but let's see if we, how we want to evolve it. It doesn't have to be formulaic; it can be responsive to what we learn.
Yeah, and I think one thing we haven't really mentioned is how important Brian's involvement is in this, because we don't. Just raising glasses. We don't know this. So like, who is this guy? And how did he get so many followers in such a small period of time?
This guy? And he's my soul to the devil at the crossroads at midnight. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. It's just like, just the number of touch points that you have is just like vastly, vastly greater. And then, and once you teamed up with Constantine and you started doing this, these podcasts and getting like, one rock star after,
40%, somewhere in that range. Bourbon people, they're probably going up. I'm sure that there's some cask strength or barrel proof out there. and then looking at what I've been doing, and I'm biased because my journey was tiki to rum and then sipping rum, then to cask strength rum and getting into some of the higher ester marks and all those sorts of things. And so you really have to think the average consumer is not going to drink a 68% from Coroni and spend $2,500. You tell that to an average consumer and they go, are you fucking nuts? Like, right? Like, and that's something that takes a lot of time. Or the first time I ever tried the Ed Hamilton St. Lucia 7-year, I almost spit it out. I was like, this is one of the worst things I've ever had in my entire life. But I just had to treat my taste buds. And so my goal is, how do we get people from 40% and just show them everything that's available in a hand-holding kind of way, and not to go from 40 to 68? Or, hey, cool, you've had Diplomatico. Hey, why don't you try this Hampton DOK at 84%? I've had one of those from Rum Deluxe in Singapore, and that was an experience. Constantine, I think you've tried the White Tiger. But that's my whole thing, is I want people to get to where I've arrived of sipping rum neat. That is where rum, I mean, it shines. It shines in cocktails, of course, but this whole concept that is reinforced over and over again is that rum's only good in cocktails. It's only good in cocktails. It only belongs in a pina colada or this or that or the other thing, is what I'm I'm dispelling every day. And so I get excited when somebody sends me a photo of, oh, this is this Chairman's Reserve Legacy I bought, and I'm drinking it by itself. I've never thought I'd sip rum neat. And I'm like, yes, that is good. Let's take you on to the other elements of the Caribbean and beyond. So anyways, I'm off the soapbox, but slowly but surely we're getting people to drinking neat and without ice. So cheers to that, huh?
Cheers to that. But if you like it with ice, have it with ice. Let's not criticize people that like it differently.
Amen.
100%.
Drink it however you like it. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's nice for people to consider it a category that's not just the sweetened, colored rums that we drank in the 80s and 90s, right?
Exactly.
So like, as long as they get there somehow, and we've been really good at converting all of our whiskey friends to be rum fans now.
Yeah, and we shouldn't discount privateer's role in this, because to get the bourbon drinkers to cross over, like, there needs to be some touch points that are familiar to them, and even for us,
you just have to introduce them to something.
You guys are bringing people to rum. It's the game.
Yeah, one of my favorite.
It takes an army.
Let's
right?
get make it big. Let's bring more.
It takes an army for us all to do this. And so everybody on this call is doing a really good job at it helping. It's not the premiumization of rum. It's highlighting the fact that rum deserves respect as a premium spirit and is on the same level as the finest agave spirits and whiskeys and brandies and cognacs and everything else in between. And everybody is making monumental strides on this call to do that. Sorry, John, I cut you off.
I like to offer this. It's not that rum is on par with those categories that you mentioned. It's that rum was at the forefront of the development of the technologies that made these other categories possible. And I'm talking specifically about, let's say, the development of was developed in Scotland in an effort to modernize whiskey, but they were also making rum at the same time in Scotland. And when we look at different types of harvesting equipment that were later converted to other technologies that made other types of industrialization of the creation of liquids possible, like rum's at the forefront, at least in America, because there was so much demand and volume for the product here that there was revenue to be able to invest in those technologies. So I don't like to have an apologist view and say rum is just as good as. I like to say that rum was always kind of present in development technology that later led to other spirits categories being advanced as well. It's something I don't think people talk about very much, but I like to kind of push that message to the front, because I don't think we have to try to be as good as. It's like rum has been in the front. It was like one of the first global spirits. When you look at the idea of taking liquids from one part of the world to another, i.e. from the Americas and Caribbean to UK, this whole idea of
really like to get it out before then. It really comes down to some governmental things that we're working through with Andrew. So if we can get clearance on everything so we can bottle it here, so we can say it was actually bottled in Boston, that would be, or like in the Massachusetts area, that would be our preference.
Okay.
So we're kind of, hopefully, if we can get everything lined up, we'll have it out sometime in early September. That's the goal. It could get delayed, but we'll see.
Yeah. And in this business, I'm learning, as Andrew has learned and you guys have learned. I mean, the timelines, the aspirational timelines almost never happen.
Right.
We talked about skier and samples. I've had samples from skier stuck at DHL for the last 3.5 months with issues with customs and duties and misunderstandings and all of that. So yeah, you never know how long something's going to take, but we just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. Well, you guys run in distilleries. I thought, because when we miss our targets, we miss by months, whereas distilleries can like miss by decades. I don't know how you guys handle that.
No
kind
pressure,
of
no
stress.
pressure, Constantine.
Yeah,
No
yeah, yeah.
pressure.
Oh, no, I know. And
Yeah, you
Shannon,
gotta
so what's next for
deal with the
you?
government.
But I mean, all that to say, good things take time, right? It takes
Yep.
the time that it takes. And sometimes we don't have control over all the external factors. And so, patience is a virtue here in order to achieve what we really want, right? As opposed to feeling like a market pressure or monetary pressure. It's like we can't move forward until it is the way it needs to be.
Yeah. What I really want is a copy of your book, Tiki, because I told Brian the story. I've bought your book 3 times, and 3 times it has disappeared from my house. So I don't know if
Who
people
are
are
these
taking
people?
it or what's
Who are you
going
letting
on.
into your house?
I don't know.
That's an important question.
That,
Who are
that
these
book
people?
has
That's a
just,
subscription
I've
model
not
at that
even
point.
gotten through it. So that's what I want. Oh,
All right, done. Send me mailing
All right.
address, and you're in Fiji. That might take
Yes.
a little while, but
It's in
Yeah.
customs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in customs.
No, but I've had it in my hands. Oh, each time.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, just go around. So where can people find you? I know Raising Glasses, you guys are on Facebook, and I've got your webpage up that has 2 other members of your team. I saw one of them there. We've got Priscilla and Isabella.
Yeah, this is Priscilla.
Aw.
We have very small
You gotta
dogs.
go on and look at their website and see these pictures, guys. Yeah, adorable. So where else can people find you?
We're on Instagram at Raising Glasses blog because we started as a cocktail blog way back in the day. And then at Facebook is Raising Glasses.
Mhm.
And
Our website.
our
obviously.
website is raisingglasses.com. And yeah, we haven't jumped onto any of the other ones yet because we're in our 50s. Can direct you to we also are in retail in New York and Florida. So if you, it will be in California in about a month. So
Awesome.
if you need to, but you can email us and we can let you know who near you might have it in the store. Otherwise you can buy it online.
All right, there's going to be a big blitz of Raising Glasses once you guys get here. So
at least 8 months out of the year. So you can find me kind of all over the place wherever great rum's being poured.
Do you have a website that lists all the events you're going to be at?
Yes. ShannonMustipher.com.
love it.
The
Andrew?
world is braced. They're so excited for you to get up there. It's really fun. Boston Bar is buzzing right now, and everybody's looking forward to the competition.
And
No, it's going to be great. I mean, the last time I was in the area, we got a chance to visit a couple of accounts and just chat liquid and kind of get the wheels turning regarding cocktail serve. So I think it's going to be quite the event. And then we'll be back later this fall to do a pop-up and do Boston Rum Week. So definitely a lot of momentum for
Nice.
sure.
And Shannon's going to be on our panel of women in rum for Boston Rum Week too,
Excellent.
right?
All looking forward to that. It's
Yes. And we've got Andrew lined up to be a speaker as well. So
What?
you'll
No,
be
no.
hearing from all of us.
I can't speak that much. Anyway, you guys, that was an amazing call.
well, wait, Andrew, everybody else said where they could find. So where can people find Privateer Rum? How can they learn more?
So we're distributed. I mean, we're really focused on 5 states right now. We're definitely focused on the American market right now. So obviously Massachusetts is our largest, but Tennessee, California, and New York are certainly very important to us. Florida's done some great business with us, and we're very happy. Some peripheral places outside of there, and it's just the nature of the world right now. Go deep, not wide, and we're having a lot of success with that approach. We are building customers. We're not building buzz, right? And then everything everybody's used to that, and except for I'm making it tonight. And that's just we're always there online. I think I'm too old for Facebook, so I don't know how I qualify in this. But if you write me a letter, I'll write you back. Is probably the offering I can give you as far as medium. And
with quill and parchment in the old school colonial manner, right? In September,
Yes.
Constantine.